his very first play, he certainly looked the part.
Play action, and Kelly throwing on first down and complete. The tight end, Keith Metzelaars, for the first down. First down at the 40. And Kelly to throw again. This one of the assets of Jim Kelly, who is a very big, strong man. Again, it's Metzelaars, a surprise weapon here in this first quarter. Bobby Humphrey, and who made the conversion from offense to defense on the stop. But Buffalo with an 8-yard pickup and another first down.
6 plays later, the Bills had a 3rd and goal at the Jets' 1.
And Kelly off the roll, touchdown.
So a great start for Kelly, but soon afterwards the Bills returned to their bad old ways when they allowed the Jets to recover this punt. Tony Page's 1-yard run brought the scores level. In his 2 USFL seasons with the Houston Gamblers, Kelly threw 83 touchdown passes. Buffalo's grand total during that time was just 27. But for the moment, it was the Jets, Ken O'Brien, in control.
And here's O'Brien going for 2. Touchdown. Al Toon out-racing Charles Rose.
Before halftime, the Bills reduced the deficit to 14-10 with a field goal. Then, right at the start of the 4th quarter,
beautiful catch by Andre Reed. Andre Reed goes all the way.
a 55-yard pass play, but back came the Jets on their next drive. Ken O'Brien twice teamed up with Al Toon for big gains. Eventually, Johnny Hector took the ball in to give the Jets a 21-17 lead, and soon they went further ahead.
2nd and 7. Wesley Walker beating Burrows on the gamble. And Wesley turning it on for the touchdown. Derek Burrows went for the interception and was beaten. A 71-yard pass play.
But with time running out, Jim Kelly wasn't finished yet.
And let's see what Kelly can do as we approach 5 minutes left, 4th quarter. Kelly in trouble. Kelly eluding the trouble. Oh, what a play. Jerry Butler on the reception, stopped by Harry Hamilton. 28-yard pass play, and this crowd is right back into it. And the Jets leading Buffalo 28-17, but it's been a splendid NFL debut for quarterback Jim Kelly. Kelly going short. The tight end Metzelaars setting up a 1st and goal off a 20-yard pass play. 1st and goal at the 4. That's Reed, 83, in motion. And Kelly stumbled, able to recover. Looking end zone, pops it, touchdown!
You'll see Kelly getting stepped on by one of his offensive linemen again. Has the presence of mind to get up. Now everything is just going haywire. He just says, anybody get open. He throws the ball to the Metzelaars deep in the end zone. You know, Mark, he has brought the level of ability of all of his teammates up about 3 or 4 notches.
It wasn't quite enough. The Jets held on to win, but Jim Kelly had impressed everyone, completing 20 of 33 passes for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns. a top-class NFL debut, and for the Buffalo Bills, hope for the future at last.
The New England Patriots 20, the New York Jets 6. The Jets lost running back Freeman McNeil for 6 weeks, a dislocated elbow. The Patriots, strong once again, winning this one easily. The Patriots' clinching touchdown came on Craig James' option pass to Tony Collins on 4th down and 1.
One of the NFL's best matchups is the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. And last Sunday at the Meadowlands, Dolphin coach Don Shula confidently marched his troops into battle, knowing full well that he possesses a weapon that no other team can boast, quarterback Dan Marino. Marino is the reason the Dolphins are defending AFC East champions. And with him, Miami will always be contenders not only for a division title, but for the league championship as well. Jets quarterback Ken O'Brien is coming off a 1985 season in which he led the NFL in passing. And his rapid climb to the top has New York hoping that, like Marino, O'Brien can be their ticket to the Super Bowl. Certainly, Jets head coach Joe Walton would like to see his team develop the consistency that produces Super Bowl contenders. His Jets are trying to rebound from a thorough beating at the hands of another AFC East rival, the New England Patriots. But on this Sunday, Walton must find a way to handle the explosive Dan Marino. Perhaps the best way is simply to match him pass for pass, touchdown for touchdown. Get set for offense, and then more offense. It's the New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins on the NFL Game of the Week. The game's first important play was not produced by either Marino or O'Brien, but rather by Jet punt returner Kurt Sohn, number 87. Sohn's slashing 27-yard return set the stage for the initial score of the contest, a 32-yard field goal by New York place kicker Pat Leahy. Strangely enough, over 10 minutes of the first quarter had elapsed, and Leahy's three-pointer was the only score. In a game that featured two of the NFL's finest quarterbacks, more was expected, and it didn't take long for more to take place. It doesn't matter how well you play defense. You cannot hold Dan Marino and the Dolphin passing game in check for very long. Following the field goal, number 13 attacked New York's injury-riddled secondary, throwing sideline strikes to Mark Duper, number 85. From the Jets' 6-yard line, Marino closed out the drive with this bullet to rookie wide receiver James Pruitt, number 82, who fought his way into the end zone. Pruitt's first receiving touchdown in the NFL gave Miami a 7-3 lead, and it would stay that way through the end of the first quarter. In the second period, however, the scoreboard would never stop, flashing numbers at the dizzying pace of a pinball machine. Jets had the first ball, and Ken O'Brien went to tight end Rocky Cleaver, number 89, who banged off Dolphin defenders on his way to a tough 21 yards. Cleaver did everything but ring up points. That was left to running back Johnny Hector. Hector, number 34, starting in place of the injured Freeman McNeil, scored New York's first touchdown, finishing off a 10-play, 83-yard drive with this burst from a yard out. Three minutes into the second quarter, the Jets had gone ahead 10-7. The next 12 minutes of this AFC East game would produce 5 touchdowns, and in the process, the Jets would tie a team record for most points scored in a quarter. But for now, the difference was a field goal, and the New York defense prepared to contain the league's most explosive quarterback. Not only did they contain Marino, they forced him into an interception, as safety Lester Lyles, number 26, picked off this errant toss and returned it deep into Miami territory. Again, it was Hector who got the Jets into the end zone, this time on a quick hitter up the middle from 8 yards out. Suddenly and dramatically, the Jets had pulled in front 17-7. But at this point in this game, the score was nothing more than a formality. The action was about to reach a frenzy that produced not only a bunch of touchdowns, but some of the most exciting offensive football you'd ever want to see. When it comes to offensive football, the Miami Dolphins take a backseat to no one. The reason is an offensive line without equal when it comes to pass protection. And of course, Dan Marino. Marino has the quickest and deadliest release in the game, and he flashed his lethal wing following New York's second touchdown. This 42-yard aerial to Mark Clayton was the big play in a quick striking drive that ended with his short toss to tight end Dan Johnson. It didn't take long at all for the Dolphins to get back in the contest. It was now 17-14 New York, but the Jets and O'Brien committed their first turnover of the game as Miami cornerback Don McNeil, number 28, plucked this pass out of the air, giving the Dolphins excellent field position at the New York 13-yard line. From there, Marino made short work of it, throwing his third scoring pass of the half, this one to Mark Duper in the corner of the end zone. With 5 minutes remaining until halftime, the Dolphins now led 21-17. It was rather clear at this point that the Jets' defense would not be able to control Marino. The question then was, can the Dolphin defense, shell-shocked on opening day by a Chargers attack that scored 50 points against them, somehow manage to hold New York's powerful offense under wraps? The answer would be no, and two of the main reasons were O'Brien and wide receiver Wesley Walker, number 85. On an important 3rd and 14 situation with just over 3 minutes remaining in the second quarter, Walker left the Dolphins secondary gasping for air as he sprinted into a different time zone with a 65-yard score. The Jets had their third touchdown of the quarter, and they regained the advantage 24-21. The Jets would get another opportunity to score late in the half on a freak play that resulted in a fumble and a New York recovery. On this Dave Jennings punt, Miami rookies James Pruitt and Raina Thompson collided, with the ball hitting Thompson and bouncing into the hands of Jets special teamer Matt Monger, number 58. Monger's effort was brought back due to the rule that says that a botched punt return can be recovered by the defense, but not advanced. It didn't matter, however. On the next play, with the ball at midfield, O'Brien and Walker again teamed up for the quick strike and the quick six. The score came with 40 seconds remaining in the first half and was the Jets' fourth touchdown of the second quarter, tying a team record. The Jets and Dolphins had combined for 6 touchdowns in the period, and the entire half saw O'Brien and Marino total nearly 500 yards passing. But as the first half came to its thrilling conclusion, 2 heroes were beginning to emerge. One was a swift wide receiver named Walker, with a special knack for outrunning secondaries to the end zone. And it was this talent that had the Jets ahead 31-21. The other hero was a young quarterback who was quickly moved into the elite group of performers that make up the NFL's superstars. Ken O'Brien may not receive the public attention that a Marino or an Elway generate, but this efficient field general is rapidly proving himself to be the equal of any quarterback in the league. And in the second half, Mr. O'Brien would state his case even more assertively. Most NFL quarterbacks would have been thrilled with the numbers Dan Marino had piled up the first half alone for an entire game performance. But the Miami passer never ceases to amaze, and he continued right where he left off as the second half began. Dan's fourth touchdown pass of the game and his second to Mark Duper covered 46 yards and was almost embarrassing in its ease. Taking full advantage of the Jets' injury-riddled secondary, Duper simply ran past all the New Yorkers and found himself practically waiting for Dan's scoring toss to fall from the sky. With Duper's touchdown, Miami trimmed New York's lead to 31-28, and Mark's Cheshire Cat smile was contagious. Soon all the Dolphins were grinning from ear to ear. After giving up a whopping 28 points to the Jets in the second quarter, Miami allowed no scoring at all in the third period as the New York offense sputtered. Getting a handle on the ball proved to be a recurring problem for the Jets. And when the Dolphins sacked O'Brien, then recovered his fumble, Miami was poised to strike again. Number 99, George Little, alertly gobbled up the miscue. And then for one of the few times in the game, Miami successfully ran the ball, with number 22, Tony Nathan, picking up big yardage. It then appeared that Marino was about to pick up another touchdown pass, but he just missed connecting with Mark Clayton over the middle. The Dolphins settled for 3, and kicker Fuad Reveiz came through, connecting from 44 yards out. Miami had now completely erased New York's halftime lead, and soon the Dolphins would reclaim that lead for themselves. Once again, the Jets helped Miami's cause with another fumble. This time it was running back Dennis Blygen, number 23, who lost the handle. Linebacker Mark Brown recovered at the New York 25, and Marino was off and winging again. Duper was stopped just short of the goal line. But after 2 unsuccessful running attempts, Marino called a play-action fake. The Jets bit, and the result was touchdown pass number 5 and a new Dolphin lead. Tight end Bruce Hardy hauled in Dan's dart, and Miami was back in control. The third quarter had been totally dominated by the Floridians. They scored all the points, controlled the game tempo, and consistently took the ball away. New York fans were beside themselves. but they would soon be singing a different tune. A dramatic fourth quarter was coming up that none of these fans or any of the players would ever forget. While the Jets continued to struggle in the second half, the Dolphins continued to ride the golden arm of Golden Boy Dan Marino. If Dan's Big Apple performance had been a Broadway show, it would have won him rave reviews and a lengthy and profitable run along the Great White Way. At one point, Marino faced the 3rd and 29 situation at the shadow of his own end zone, but Dan's Houdini-like escape got the Dolphins out of trouble. Marino was so hot that at times it seemed he was completing passes to everyone. And in fact, that's just what was happening. Unfortunately for Marino, this pass didn't count. But the bullets that Ken O'Brien was firing in the fourth quarter certainly did. The Jet quarterback was showing decisively that Marino wasn't the only good passer to be playing in this game. A big catch by wide receiver Al Toon set up 3 more O'Brien completions as the Jet attack finally began to revive itself. Inside the 10, running back Dennis Blygen atoned for his earlier fumble, and suddenly the game was tied again. The Jets appeared to be picking up momentum. After holding Marino in check, New York regained possession in hopes of notching a go-ahead score. But another Gotham miscue put the ball right back in Miami's hands. The officials ruled Wesley Walker had possession before he fumbled. The Jets felt otherwise. The bottom line was Miami had the ball, but they didn't keep it long. Only the time it took for Marino to fire touchdown pass number 6. With Mark Clayton's diving grab, the Dolphins took the lead with only 3 minutes to play. And then the beleaguered Miami defense held the Jets in their next possession. Now with time running out, Miami could wrap up the game if they could accumulate even 1 first down. But this time Marino was not going to do it. On a day when Dan had 30 completions for almost 450 yards and 6 touchdowns, the Dolphin quarterback could not extract the last 10 yards that would have finished off the Jets. In fact, Miami nearly shot itself in the foot by almost fumbling the ball back into New York's hands. With barely a minute to play, Ken O'Brien took over. And with the help of clever-handed tight end Mickey Schuler, the Jets began an incredible march to the end zone. After dishing off to Johnny Hector, Schuler used the threat of a similar play to freeze the Dolphin defense and get out of bounds to stop the clock. Schuler caught one more pass, and then with 5 seconds left in the game, Ken O'Brien faced a 9-man secondary in a seemingly hopeless situation. But then that hopeless feeling vanished quickly. With no time left on the clock, Wesley Walker came down with a catch. O'Brien fired the ball between 5 Dolphins. Wesley had his 3rd touchdown catch of the game, and with the conversion, the contest ripped into overtime. For the 3rd time in his career, Walker had collected a trio of scoring grabs in a single game. But none was ever as dramatic as this. New York had come back from the dead, then added to their good fortune by winning the overtime coin toss. But then it looked as if all their heroics were about to go by the wayside, as kick returner Michael Harper, number 84, appeared to fumble the football away. In another controversial call, the referees ruled Harper's progress had been stopped before the bobble. The relieved Jets weren't going to give anyone the chance to change their minds. On the 5th play of overtime, Ken O'Brien and Wesley Walker hooked up again for one of the most sensational conclusions of any game ever. With Walker's team record 4th touchdown reception, the Jets had pulled out one of the most zany, improbable, and utterly unbelievable comeback victories in the annals of football. It capped off a day in which the two teams combined for 884 passing yards, the most ever in NFL history. 479 of those came from Ken O'Brien, whose leadership and moxie was equally as impressive. 35 years ago at the old Polo Grounds, a baseball player named Bobby Thompson hit a home run to propel the New York Giants into the World Series, one of the most dramatic moments in sports. Many New York fans admit they witnessed Thompson's blast. Now in 1986, there's another event which can make a New Yorker boast, "I was there." It was the day Wesley Walker hit a 4-bagger of his own. 4 amazing touchdown catches to beat the Miami Dolphins, give the Jets an astonishing win, shatter league and team records, and make both player and fan utter in gasping acknowledgement, "That was the greatest game I've ever seen."
The New York Jets 26, the Indianapolis Colts 7. No miracles needed by the Jets this week, and just one scoring pass from Ken O'Brien to Kurt Sohn. The Buffalo Bills 13, the New York Jets 14. Once again, Jim Kelly's Bills came up just short. They were leading 13-7 with only a minute to go, and with Jets quarterback Ken O'Brien hampered by a knee injury. But O'Brien stayed in, and he hit Mickey Schuler from 36 yards, and the point after won it for the Jets. The Jets at New England is the key game in the AFC East this week.
Backup quarterbacks. Pat Ryan, the backup for the Jets. His opposite number, Steve Grogan for the Patriots. They each had a good day, but first quarter, 4th and goal. Johnny Hector sweeping right. 1 of 3 one-yard touchdown runs for Hector on the day. 7-0 Jets. Second quarter, it's already 17-0 New York. Just a minute, 8 to go in the half. Pat Ryan play fake, looking to the right corner. Mickey Schuler, touchdown. Jets in a walk, right? 24-0 at the half. Third quarter, 24-3. Steve Grogan says, wait a minute. From the shotgun, looking deep for the Stanley Steamer out of Tennessee, Stanley Morgan. And it's 24-10, still in the third. 3rd and 2 from the Pats 31. Grogan again looking deep. He finds Irving Fryer. Now, Irving does a no-no here. He scores a touchdown. That's allowed. But watch what he does after the touchdown. Irving, fun is not allowed in the NFL. Shame on you. It is 24-17, still in the third quarter. 3rd and 2 from the Pats 31. Hector goes, well, that's a 3rd and 1. Hector's having fun, too. That's not allowed. The Jets win it by a score of 31-24. Steve Grogan passed for 401 yards in that game. Now, the high-flying Jets are now in control of the AFC East. We had some comments from both locker rooms.
You know, you can't let New England sweep you because, you know, they're us and them, you know, are the class of our league, and we let them beat us twice. That means they're better than us, and I don't think they are.
They're a good team, you know, and you can't take anything away from them because, hey, we made a lot of mistakes today, and they set the tempo today, and they really actually just took it to us in the first half, and, hey, we just got to come out next week and be a better team.
It's not easy making up 24 points in one half. we did that, and I'm happy about the way the offensive played. But we still didn't make the big play at the end when we needed to make the big play, and for whatever reason, it needed to be done and didn't get done.
Well, it was an important game for both teams, and but I've said all along that this division is going to go down to the end. I don't think anybody's going to run away with it, so there's a lot of football to be played yet.
Monday night game was right here in New York. It was the Denver Broncos, undefeated in the AFC West, against the New York Jets, on top of the AFC East with a 5-1 record. It was also a great opportunity for the Jets. Now, they have defeated a lot of lesser teams in the NFL, and they have felt that they are not getting enough credit for what they are doing. So it was a real opportunity for the Jets to prove that they are indeed for real. The Jets have got off to fast starts in all their games this year, and on their opening drive, backup quarterback Pat Ryan led them to 5 first downs on the way to the Denver 6-yard line. There, after a penalty, the Jets have a first down and 5. With me in the commentary booth is Al Michaels.
Inside handoff. Hector fights his way. Touchdown.
Yes.
And Dan Alexander threw a beauty to guard number 60.
I say the Broncos aren't big defensively. Well, they aren't big compared to a lot of teams as they look in the NFL video replay unit as to whether he did indeed get in or not. We're going to look again, and they are looking up here. Art McNally is the official present tonight. Let's look at it again.
After further review, the instant replay, there is no touchdown. The ball is on the 1-yard line.
So he is just shy of the touchdown, and you can credit Harden with a saving tackle. And so there is a victim of technology, at least at the moment. In years past, it would have been a touchdown and 6 and going on to the extra point. But you take another look now as Harden, for the moment anyway, saves the touchdown.
He went down before he broke the plane with the ball, and it is a good call. The head of officials, Art McNally, is the man in charge tonight. They have a new setup tonight. The umpire tonight has a little earpiece, and so does McNally, and they can talk back and forth. They're not yelling and screaming, and we are finally getting state-of-the-art equipment, Al.
Well, now they have Page and they have Hector again. So let's see if they give Hector the ball and give him another shot, and they do. And he leaps, and he's in for the touchdown, at least temporarily.
Says, hey, there you are. You want it all the way? I'll give it to you. Big drive by the Jets. They wanted to be able to move the ball on the ground. All coaches do. They wanted to be able to move the ball, keep the ball away from John Elway in that offense, and they've used up most of the first quarter, or first half of it. That's a great effort here. Misses on the hurdle, comes down, and spins back into the end zone.
So Hector gets his touchdown. And that's only right. As Leahy attempts the extra point. And the Jets picked up 6 first downs on that drive that started at the 35-yard line and consumed the better part of the first half of the first quarter.
Hector did most of it on the ground, along with McNeil. He carried it 40 times last week. Is he durable? You better believe he is. And a good extra effort as he spins away from Foley for the touchdown.
On their next drive, the Jets benefited from 2 big penalties against the Broncos. This one for pass interference on 3rd down and 13. And from 27 yards out, Pat Leahy kicked his 21st consecutive field goal for the Jets. The NFL record for consecutive field goals is 23 by Mark Mosley when he was with the Washington Redskins. The first New York drive of the second quarter was another long one. Freeman McNeil back in the thick of it after missing the last month with an elbow injury. Pat Leahy kicked his 22nd straight, this time from 25 yards out to make it 13-0 for the Jets. Still in the second quarter, the Broncos are punting from their own end zone.
3:14 remaining, and that's not a very good kick either. Fielded at the 48-yard line by Sohn, breaks it to the outside, inside the 40, the 30, and down he goes at the 25. And Norman again makes the tackle. And when your punter makes the tackle, you're in trouble.
I'd hate to see the way Jack Wheel was punting when they released him for Chris Norman. Norman, not a good kick, and it was a low kick, the kind you will return, and Kurt Sohn promptly did that. Stepped up, gave it a look up the middle, and that's just to pull the defense in, and then steps to the outside and rips it off back to the 26-yard line. And the Jets, again, they are totally dominating this football game in every aspect.
37-yard punt, first down, Jets, as the flip goes out here and taken to 24 by Hector. And Foley is in on the stop, and it's O'Brien at quarterback now for the Jets. So Ryan with a terrific first half, and then Walton goes to the bench here and has O'Brien come back from the knee injury.
That really is surprising, because Joe was very outspoken that he would not bring him in, and now we see that Ryan is leaving. He is going inside with one of the trainers, so something must have happened to Ryan. We did not get the report.
We'll get it for you. Second down and 8 from the 23-yard line. 2:21 to play in the half. And O'Brien lofting it for Walker. Welcome back.
And what I said earlier, you want to throw the ball deep, you get O'Brien in there. He'll never underthrow it. This is one of your basic blowouts thus far. Everything working for the Jets. Dennis Smith trying to stay with Wesley Walker. He'd never do it in a sprint, and O'Brien will never underthrow it. He works so well with Walker on the deep pass. Remember those 4 touchdown passes of Walker against Miami earlier in the year in that thriller? Not a bad way to welcome your quarterback back.
And what touch, too, to miss a game, to come in cold off the bench. And O'Brien holding because Ryan normally does, but with Ryan gone, O'Brien really getting into the thick of things as Leahy kicks it through. And again, it's a perfect first half for the New York Jets.
And the Broncos' first half problems weren't over yet.
First and 10 Denver from the 8. Elway from the gun. Look out. Gastineau spins him, but there's Elway, and they did not rule in the grasp. And now he dumps it and somehow completes it to the 16-yard line, and Wilhite makes the catch. Nearly in the grasp.
He was in the end zone, I think, 3 times. Did they get him in the grasp?
It's funny because we've seen some almost ludicrous in the grasp calls. I'm thinking about that one in the Green Bay-Chicago game. And if Green Bay-Chicago was in the grasp, this was a sack in the dirt.
You do have to control him, though. He spins away from Gastineau. He was not in the grasp there. Now he'll step across the goal line, and maybe the officials may be a little more judicious about their call. And that was amazing. He was able to get that ball away. He just strong arms it. That was Bennett. It looked all right. He makes it all look like it's difficult. Here he is, steps across the goal line, back into the end zone. Very confident in what he can do with the football. That's amazing.
So John Elway dodges that bullet, but 2 plays later, after another Denver penalty, he's pretty much back in the same hole.
It is second down and 10, and Elway nearly getting it, and they call it this time. This time they call it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Jets compound it as a fracas breaks out, and it was Keith Bishop, number 54, right in the middle of things. And I think they may have flagged him initially, and then the melee really starts. An amazing first half in the sense the Jets doing absolutely everything right. Elway and the Broncos can't get on track. It's 22-0. And again, it's a very big play in as much as we know Denver is explosive and they can score and they've come from behind, but now they're down by more than 3 touchdowns. And as you can see, the safety had already been called there before number 78 Bennett came in.
The Broncos finally got on the scoreboard early in the 3rd quarter when Rich Carlos kicked this 47-yarder. But just when it seemed that Denver might really threaten, Elway was intercepted by Kyle Clifton in the Jets' end zone. In the 4th quarter, Elway had to come out with a mild concussion. leaving backup quarterback Gary Kubiak to take Denver through to the end.
Kubiak, and it's tipped and caught for a touchdown. In and out of the hands of Clarence Kay and into Sammy Winder. And they finally figure out a way to get into the end zone with some assistance.
Small consolation for Denver, beaten 22-10. The end of their unbeaten record. With the Mets and along with the Giants, the Jets also won.
New Orleans Saints 23, New York Jets 28. 101 receiving yards and 2 spectacular touchdowns for wide receiver Al Toon. But the Jets only just held on to a 28-6 fourth quarter lead, and kicker Pat Leahy's string of 22 consecutive field goals came to an end.
In Seattle, the Jets began the second half of the season without Mel and Klecko, but the AFC's second-best rushing team was held to a scant 51 yards on the ground. In a 38-7 romp over the Seahawks, Ken O'Brien threw 4 touchdown passes. Al Toon contributed nearly 200 yards in receptions and 2 scores.
O'Brien being rushed. O'Brien throwing long down the sideline for Toon in the end zone. Touchdown, Al Toon with a remarkable catch.
Al Toon is a remarkable player.
And then this week, the Jets at Atlanta. No score in the first quarter. Just watch what the Jets came up with in the second.
3rd down and 11 now. Here comes O'Brien ready to put it up deep. Puts a lot of top on it. Al Toon's going for the ball. It's going to be a touchdown for the Jets.
No flag.
Perfect football play, a 59-yard pass play, and Al Toon has his 8th touchdown reception of the year. Ryan looking at Toon. Now he's going to Walker. He's open. Wesley Walker in the end zone. And the Jets have a second bomb for a touchdown with no markers down. Into the end zone they go. Is it a touchdown? It is. So the 16th great completion is a second touchdown pass to Wesley Walker. A 3rd touchdown throw of this day for Ken O'Brien. And the Jets now have taken command of the game 20-0.
The Jets won, easing up 28-14. At one stage, O'Brien completed 17 consecutive passes, just 3 short of the NFL record.
Forced 6 turnovers in a 31-16 win over the Colts in Week 11. Number 39, Harry Hamilton, and Johnny Lynn, number 29, produced interceptions. 3 Wesley Walker touchdowns also contributed to a team record 9th victory in a row. But after this game, the Jets' quest for the AFC East title receded into the shadows.
New York Jets 3, Miami Dolphins 45. The Dolphins took out all their frustrations on the Jets' decimated defensive line. Lorenzo Hampton's 54-yarder was the Dolphins' longest rushing touchdown for 6 years, and he became the first Miami player to rush for more than 100 yards in a game in 2 years. 288 yards and 4 touchdowns for Dan Marino. And there was more good news for Dolphins fans afterwards. Coach Don Shula signed a new contract.
A winning recipe in football is often good defense, good running, and a good quarterback. The Los Angeles Rams seem to have found the missing ingredient for their playoff drive, as rookie quarterback Jim Everett continues to impress opponents. Recently acquired Kevin House, number 83, turned this pass into a 60-yard scoring play, while futility and turnovers marked the Jets game. Jerry Gray's jarring hit forced Wesley Walker to fumble away this perfect scoring opportunity. Nolan Cromwell, number 21, buried the ball as the Rams went on to bury the Jets. Eric Dickerson caught New York with only 10 men on the field for this touchdown. The Rams' 17-3 victory solidified their standing atop the NFC West and left the Jets searching for their offense as they dropped their second straight without scoring a touchdown.
New York Jets 10, San Francisco 49ers 24. The Jets' third straight loss. Ken O'Brien was sacked 4 times, intercepted 3 times, and his first 9 passes of the game were incomplete. Roger Craig ran for 2 touchdowns for the 49ers, both in the second quarter. Pittsburgh Steelers 45, New York Jets 24. Another sorry story for the Jets. Ken O'Brien was sacked 5 times. He was intercepted 3 times, and the Jets were buried under 28 fourth-quarter points by the Steelers. The Jets' injury list lengthened, and so did their run of defeats to 4.
Of high hopes, maybe the Jets thought that if they put all their heads together, they could find a way to win. Maybe they thought that if they got off on the right foot against Cincinnati, they could march away victorious. With a playoff spot already assured, the Jets were hoping to end the regular season on a high note. And Bobby Humphrey's 96-yard return of the opening kickoff was sweet music to New York. They looked ready to bury their 4-game losing streak and took a 21-17 halftime lead, thanks to 2 Freeman McNeil touchdowns. But it was the Jets who were buried, as quarterback Ken O'Brien never got on track. Meanwhile, Bengals quarterback Boomer Esiason had a spectacular day, the best of his 3-year career. He connected with 8 different receivers for a whopping 425 yards and 5 touchdown passes, including one to tackle-eligible Anthony Munoz, number 78, and 3 to wide receiver Chris Collinsworth. Despite the Bengals' 52-21 rout of the Jets, Cincinnati will miss the playoffs thanks to New England's Monday night win. The Boomers' heroics were for naught, and he'll watch the Jets limp into the wild card game on the heels of 5 straight losses.
Trailing 6-0 early in the first quarter, Joe Walton elected to roll the dice.
Joe Walton playing the role of the riverboat gambler with Pat Ryan, the quarterback. Walker flanked to the right, Tune to the left, zone in motion. Pat Ryan on a quarterback sneak's got a first down.
Ryan, starting in place of Ken O'Brien, shifted the game's momentum with his gritty execution of Walton's bold call.
Ryan breaks a tackle and is down inside the 10. How about that for a call? First and goal for the Jets. Come on, get in the hole. Get a crack.
A pair of Freeman McNeil scores and a revitalized defense helped Ryan engineer a 21-6 halftime lead.
Time, throwing touchdown to Al Tune. Come on, defense! Throwing out of the back. Oh, it's intercepted! It's intercepted by Kevin McArthur, and he's going to run it in for a touchdown! First play, second half. He was untouched by human hands.
The Jets maintained a winning tempo throughout the second half and orchestrated a 35-15 victory.
Ryan throwing for Briggs is wide open. Touchdown, New York! Oh, and the Dogs extinguish the fire. We're on our way to Cleveland.
The Jets had removed all doubt as to their playoff qualifications by reasserting the work ethic so central to their competitive identity. And this triumph proved that maximum effort is what the New York Jets are all about.
During the regular season, the Jets were dominant for 11 weeks and doormats for 5. And head coach Joe Walton had a few tricks up his sleeve to assure which Jet team would show up for the divisional playoff game against the Browns. Wesley Walker's 42-yard touchdown off the flea flicker gave New York a 7-0 lead, and it appeared that the Jets' quick strike capabilities, which had once made them the most exciting offense in football, were alive and kicking again. The ease with which Walker scored indeed caused wide-eyed disbelief, but the Browns immediately struck back, as Bernie Kosar launched a 98-yard drive, culminating with his 37-yard touchdown pass to Herman Fontenot, number 28. This ability to battle back set the tone for the game. Suddenly, the Jets were left breathless as they barely had 4 minutes to savor their lead. Neither team would score a touchdown until the final period as the respective defenses took center stage. The Browns recorded 9 sacks, forced starter Pat Ryan out of the game with a groin pull, and victimized his replacement, Ken O'Brien, as well. Meanwhile, the Jet defense pressured Kosar, who had the lowest interception percentage in the league, into 2 turnovers. Russell Carter's theft ended Kosar's streak of 132 passes without an interception, and more importantly, thwarted the Browns' drive deep in Jet territory. Momentum was shifting toward New York. Mark Gastineau taunted the hostile crowd with his mouth. Freeman McNeil let his legs speak for themselves. One play after Kosar tossed his second interception, McNeil sprinted 25 yards for a score and a 20-10 lead. Kosar sought to redeem himself and more than made up for his miscues, setting playoff passing records by completing 33 of 64 for 489 yards. With just under 2 minutes to play, Kosar directed the Browns to the 1-yard line where Kevin Max scored to pull the Browns within 3. Just as the spark for the Browns' glorious comeback was ignited, the fire in the New Yorkers' eyes seemed to be extinguished. Frustration had set in for the Jets, a foe almost as dangerous as Bernie Kosar. Operating with no timeouts and precious little time, Kosar connected with Webster Slaughter for 37 yards down to the Jets' 5. With 7 seconds remaining in regulation, Mark Mosley kicked the tying field goal to wipe the slate clean and send the game into overtime. It took the combination of the Browns' oldest and youngest players to mount a stirring recovery from the cold breath of playoff extinction. And once the overtime began, it would be these 2 figures, Mosley and Kosar, who would be cast in the central roles once again. On the Browns' first overtime possession, Kosar brilliantly directed Cleveland again to the Jets' 5-yard line and called on Mosley for a repeat performance of his game-tying kick. But this time he was the heel, not the hero. Mosley's 3rd miss of the day caused the Jets to rejoice, but ultimately it only prolonged New York's agony. Few players, notably kickers, get a second chance, but fate smiled kindly on Mark Mosley and the Cleveland Browns. 27 yards, and what seemed like an eternity later, Mosley gave the Browns a 23-20 double overtime victory. For the Jets, this game typified their season, a roller coaster all the way, something to take pride in, yet little consolation for their tremendous downfall at the end. It took the 3rd longest game in history to do it, but the Browns were on their way to the AFC Championship game. They had achieved their first playoff win since 1969 and can hold their heads proud and high, for they will be the favorites to represent their conference in Super Bowl 21.